Hey, welcome back to Living in Minnesota. My name is Joe Carmack, and it's time for your Twin Cities real estate market update for February 2023. So we're going to break down exactly what the market's doing and what you need to know if you're thinking about buying or selling a home or moving to Minnesota. As we always do, we'll start you off with your month supply of inventory. Now, this one, if you're new to the channel, this is the relationship between are we in a buyer's market or a seller's market. So I'll draw a line here. 6 would be kind of that target range, depending on who we ask, to being in a balanced market. The higher we are, more of a buyer's. The lower we are, more of a seller's market. So you can see there was no major change in January. It's actually the third month that we've sat flat. This is the rolling 12-month number, which I'm going to reference back and forth in this video, maybe a little more than I normally do, because I think it's important to see kind of a rolling average of the last 12 months, which is like you see here, but then also an exact month-to-month change, because we can compare this January versus last January and not take into account everything in between. So we're going to start you off. This is your rolling 12-month, but let me go ahead and pull it into the monthly change there. 1.3 is if you're looking at the specific month-to-month number. What was very interesting about this one, though, is that actually went down. Oops, my buttons are going haywire. That went down 0.1 months. But what was weird about that one is if you look back at most of these, January is right in here. It's always, pretty much always has been flat. We've never seen it go down. So what does that mean for you? It means it actually became slightly more seller favored in the market. And although this is reporting now through January's final numbers, right? That's telling us that actually November and December were slightly more competitive than we would have normally seen otherwise, because of course, homes that went under contract November, December are closing in January. And so I was pretty surprised to see that one. Every indication is that we're going to see this metric keep going up to being towards a more balanced market. This one going down was pretty interesting, and I guess we'll have to leave that one at that. Next up, let's look at the sale prices around the Twin Cities. So this one, we came in at $342,000 for January this year. So that's a 2.7% change if we're looking at that year over year, this January versus January a year ago. So that's actually a pretty encouraging number. In previous years, we've seen that even in the double digits. And so for us only to be up 2.7, I think is a great sign. I will say I'm a little bit surprised we're not at a higher price appreciation just where everything else had been in the market. But only being up 2.7, I think is actually pretty encouraging. I don't mind for a second if prices do want to come down a little bit. I don't anticipate they will much, if any. And all the economists have been saying we're not going down for the Twin Cities. So while I think that's probably the case, I mean, I got to assume they know what they're talking about. I will say this number is a lot lower. So could we go from 10% to 2% to being negative a year from now? It's possible. Seeing that number, I will at least say that I think it's more in the realm of possibility than I had previously thought, which is perfectly fine with me. And I don't think most people are going to be complaining about that. As we look at our days on market, this will affect more people. And this is a good example or a good representation of what's happening kind of in the broader market. How quickly are homes selling? How competitive are things? You can see a year ago, we were at 11 days on market. We're currently at 14. So that isn't a terribly significant number, but that's the rolling 12 months, don't forget. If we look at the month to month, this was, at first I was really surprised, to be honest. When I first saw this, so if we come in here, so I believe this was November, December was somewhere in here, and then here we are at January, right? So that seems like a huge increase of our days on market. That means homes are selling exponentially slower with higher days on market. But it is if you're comparing that to the last couple of years, 2021, 22. But those were really weird years. We had the pandemic that was affecting us. You know, early in 2020, that whole thing got pushed towards the end of the year. And so that kept demand high. Buyers were kind of fatigued and they took a short break and then they got back into the market. So things kept selling pretty quickly. But if we kind of factor out those 2 months, it actually wasn't that different. I did go ahead and run the numbers for the 2 years prior to that. And so you can see here, we were at 43 days on market in January, 25 in November. For those same months, previously 43, 44, 29, 31. So that's actually not a terribly significant difference in the grander scheme of things. And if you compare it to those numbers, I would have actually not been surprised to see the days on market a little bit higher, meaning homes were selling a little bit slower, meaning that we were shifting from being as competitive. Whereas I like that our days on market was evening out. This is not really ideal, you know. We do like to see the sale price numbers coming down, but but our days on market isn't dramatically slower. That is also a really good thing to keep in mind, that this is seasonality. So as you can see, we get into the faster, hotter months, April, May, June, July. Those are going to be selling a lot more quickly, and then they are slower. So like I had said a few months ago, I really like the winter months for buyers. For this reason, homes are selling slower. Now we're getting into, spring market. Now that it's February 1st, spring market kicks off and things are going to get faster and faster. Next, let's look at the number of new listings that are coming on the market. Now, this isn't to be confused with the number of homes that are actually for sale on the market. This is just in a given month how many new homes are put for sale. So this number has been going down pretty significantly. There's no real major changes this month. As I got my little brush, we obviously just came down a little touch there. I'm not even gonna put the numbers up for you because I think just visualizing this is a pretty good representation of where we've been at. This is a 10-year graph, and I do wish I could go, like 30 years back to see a broader average. We can't. A couple things to note here. We've actually been pretty tight within the actual number of new listings. It hasn't fluctuated too significantly, right? So if that's, what is our average going to be coming from, like 73,000, 74,000 to 78,000? So there's like a 5,000 or 6,000 gap there as a percentage of 72. That's not a huge number. This is the rolling 12 month, but then we're starting to see that number dipping. And actually this is the month to month number, not the rolling 12. So we had seen that number going down. It doesn't concern me too significantly because we did expect that. What's interesting, however, though, is, and let me clear my screen for you there. Let's switch now to the number of of homes on the market. The reason is because this many homes are getting listed, then they sell off at kind of like an unknown rate, but then we're left over with the number of homes for sale. So there's kind of this correlation between how many sellers do we have coming in, new listings, how many buyers are in there snatching those up, and then how many are left over. So then in a given month, how many homes are for sale. So while we're seeing the number of new listings drop dramatically, we're actually seeing the number of homes that are currently for sale on the market going up, which is a pretty interesting dynamic that's happening between the two. So what does that tell us? It tells us that there's a big reduction in the number of new homes getting put on the market for sale. There's fewer sellers hitting the market, but there's also fewer buyers that are hitting the market as well. And the buyers actually have reduced more than the sellers, so that it's becoming slightly more favorable, slightly more balanced. So to put this in kind of another context, we've had this number of listings hitting the market for quite a while, but we've had this many buyers that are all snatching them up, right? So it's become extremely competitive, not very many homes for sale, tons of buyers picking them up. So we are seeing this number going down, which theoretically we don't like, but the reality is we don't like this gap in between. So while we're seeing this number going down, we're seeing this one come down even more as the number of buyers. So what does that mean? It means we'll see fewer homes selling. There'll be a reduction in the number of sales happening, but that doesn't really affect the average homeowner too much. That affects agents, right? That's my income. But it doesn't affect the market too much. And so it doesn't, I'm just saying that I don't think you need to be too concerned as a consumer, that we like that relationship coming back into balance. And then let's land the plane with interest rates. So this is the biggest topic of conversation. For whatever reason, I don't actually think this is as significant as some of the other things. Are our prices going to be up 10% or are they going to be up 0? That's going to affect you, I think, more in the long run, because you can always refinance out of a bad rate. But you can see right here, rates as of, I think I pulled this on Valentine's Day, February 14th. So, the 9th there. 6.12 is what your 30-year fixed mortgage is going to be coming in, averaged from Freddie Mac. Let's look, if we zoom in a little bit. I like this one for context, but if we go ahead and zoom in to just past few years, you can see rates had gone up and they have come down fairly significantly. The question is going to be, where are we going from here rates-wise? We were in a meeting just on Tuesday this week, and the lender that was speaking was basically saying that she expects we'll be towards the 5s, like 5% by the end of 2023. So I'm not sure if that's gold, but hopefully rates should go down. They're just not happening anytime soon. I did also just hear something from the Fed saying that they're raising them again this week. So I'm not sure that we can predict what the rates are going to do. I don't think there's anybody that can really say, because it's less predictable. What's going to go on with China and spy balloons, and what's going to go on in Russia and Ukraine, and what's the greater economy doing? How much are other costs of goods going up? and that'll affect what they do with rates. So I don't think we can predict that too much. I think overall we're going to see a lower amount of appreciation this year, and I do think rates will improve eventually. How much for either one is kind of anybody's guess. So there is your quick and easy February market update for the Twin Cities. My name is Joe Carmack. Whether you're moving to Minnesota or you already live here, I would love to be your agent. So just find all my contact info in the description down below, and I'll see you next month.